He was a millionaire everyone envied, young, rich, and unstoppable. But one stormy night, as his luxury car stopped at a red light, he saw something that froze his heart. An old couple, drenched in rain, shivering under a broken umbrella. And when he looked closer, his world shattered. They weren't strangers. They were his parents, the ones he left behind chasing success. What he did next left the entire city speechless. A story of guilt, love, and redemption you'll never forget. This is the night a millionaire found something money could never buy: forgiveness. The rain that night wasn't just falling. It was roaring, almost angry, like the sky itself was weeping. Thunder rolled over the city, lightning flashed across tall glass buildings, and people hurried under umbrellas, desperate to escape the storm. But one man wasn't rushing. Inside a black luxury car that glided through the wet streets, Adrian Khan sat silently behind the tinted window. His tailored suit, his diamond watch, his driver, everything about him screamed success. He was one of the youngest millionaires in the country, a man who had built an empire from nothing. Yet his eyes, as they stared out into the dark, told a different story, a loneliness money couldn't fix. He had just left a high-profile business dinner. Cameras had flashed. People had clapped. Investors had praised him. But now, in the quiet hum of his car, the applause meant nothing. He leaned his head back and sighed, feeling the weight of years. Years spent chasing dreams, but running from something far more important. Then, it happened. As his car stopped at a red light, Adrian's gaze drifted toward the sidewalk. Two old figures huddled under a street lamp, shivering under a torn umbrella. The man's shirt was soaked through, and the woman's thin shawl clung to her skin. They looked exhausted, as if life itself had given up on them. Adrian felt something stir inside his chest, something heavy and familiar. He couldn't look away. The old man was trying to shield the woman from the rain, his trembling hands clutching the broken umbrella handle. The woman reached out and gently wiped water from his face with a soaked corner of her shawl. And in that small act of love, Adrian's world stopped. His heart began to pound. His breath caught in his throat. He leaned forward, eyes wide. Those faces aged, tired, but unmistakable. "Stop the car," he whispered. The driver turned, startled. "Sir, stop the car!" Adrian repeated, louder this time. The car halted beside the curb. Adrian opened the door, stepping into the rain without an umbrella. The cold hit him instantly, but he didn't care. Because standing right there under that flickering streetlight were his parents. The same parents he had abandoned years ago in his hunger for success. And now, fate had brought them back. In the middle of a storm, Adrian stood frozen in the rain. His heart was pounding so loud he could hear it over the thunder. His designer shoes were soaked. His suit clung to his body. But none of that mattered because before him stood the two people he had once promised to never forget. And yet, somehow, he had. "Amma," his voice broke as he stepped closer. The woman looked up, squinting through the curtain of rain. Her eyes widened, trembling as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Adrian," she whispered, her voice thin and weak. Her husband, gray-haired and frail, turned his head slowly. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them, the kind that only years of separation could create. Adrian wanted to speak, but memories flooded his mind like the rain flooding the streets. He saw his younger self, an 18-year-old boy, angry and determined, standing outside their small mud-brick house. "I'm leaving," he'd said. "I can't live like this anymore." His father had pleaded, "Son, money isn't everything." Family but Adrian had cut him off. "I'll come back when I'm someone worth respecting." He remembered walking away with a single backpack and burning ambition, never looking back. Not once. He had worked day and night in the city, building his dream from scratch. He'd eaten leftover food, slept on park benches, and taught himself everything through trial and pain. Years of struggle finally paid off when his startup went viral. Investors poured in, and soon he became a millionaire. The boy who had nothing now owned everything. But in that success, he had buried his past. His parents' calls went unanswered. Letters were ignored. When his mother once came to the city to find him, his assistant turned her away, calling her a disturbance. Adrian had told himself, "They'll be proud when they see my name on billboards. I'll make it up to them later." But later never came. Now, looking at them standing helpless in the rain, Adrian realized time had stolen what he thought he could delay. Their faces were older, thinner, their backs slightly bent from years of hardship. His father's eyes met his. No anger, just quiet sadness. Adrian dropped to his knees in the mud. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I thought I was doing it for us, but I forgot what really mattered." And for the first time in years, his mother reached out and pulled him into her trembling arms. The rain poured harder, but Adrian didn't move. He stayed on his knees, holding his mother's frail hands as if afraid they might disappear. His driver stood nearby, stunned and unsure whether to intervene, but Adrian didn't care. The world around him had faded. All that existed were his parents, standing there after all these years. His mother's lips trembled. "Why didn't you come home, Adrian? We waited for so long." Her voice cracked on the last word, and it hit him like a blade. He swallowed hard, unable to meet her eyes. I thought you'd be disappointed," he said, his voice barely audible over the rain. "I wanted to come back successful. I didn't want you to see me fail." His father took a step forward, the rain streaming down his wrinkled face. "Son," he said softly, "we never cared about money. We only wanted you, our boy, not the millionaire on TV." Adrian's throat tightened. Those simple words broke something inside him that fame and fortune had built like armor. "I was wrong," he whispered, tears mixing with the rain. "I thought I was running toward success, but I was running away from love." His mother gently cupped his face. "We never stopped loving you, Beta," she said, using the same tender tone from his childhood. "We prayed for you every night. Even when we didn't know if you were alive, we prayed." Adrian closed his eyes, overwhelmed. "Please," he said, "let me take you home. Let me make things right." But his father hesitated, looking down. "We don't want to be a burden, son. We lost everything. Our land, our house. We came to the city hoping to find work, but..." His voice trailed off. Adrian stood, shaking his head. "Burden? You gave me life. You taught me everything. You're not a burden. You're my blessing." He opened his car door and helped his mother inside, wrapping his jacket over her shoulders. His father followed slowly, his steps weak, but his eyes shining with tears. As Adrian sat behind the wheel, for the first time in years, his hands trembled, not from fear of losing money, but from the fear of losing time that could never return. He pressed the accelerator softly. The car rolled through the rain, and in that silence, one truth echoed in his heart. He had finally found what no amount of money could ever buy: forgiveness. The car glided through the stormy night, windshield wipers battling the relentless rain. Inside, silence filled the air, not the cold kind, but one thick with emotion. Adrian kept glancing in the rear-view mirror, watching his parents sitting quietly in the back seat. His mother was still shivering, clutching his jacket around her shoulders, while his father held her hand, whispering something softly to calm her. When they reached Adrian's penthouse, his parents stared in disbelief. The towering building touched the clouds, its glass walls glowing like something out of another world. His father murmured, "Is this where you live?" Adrian nodded, guilt pressing heavily on his heart. "It's not home," he said softly. "Not until you're both here." He guided them inside, past marble floors, gold accents, and city views that stretched for miles. His mother gasped at the chandeliers above. "We used to light candles when the electricity went out," she said, her eyes glistening. "Now you have a sky full of lights." Adrian smiled weakly. "It all means nothing without you." He brought out dry clothes, warm soup, and sat beside them as they ate slowly. His mother's hands trembled with age. His father's cough was deep and tired. Adrian watched every movement, realizing just how much time he had missed. Every birthday, every festival, every moment that should have been shared. When they finished eating, his father spoke softly. "Son, we didn't come to the city to find you. We came because we had to sell our land. The broker cheated us. We've been staying wherever we could. We didn't want to burden anyone." Adrian felt tears burn his eyes. "No one cheats my parents again," he said with quiet determination. "You'll never worry about money or shelter. I promise." That night, while his parents slept in the guest room, Adrian sat by the window, staring at the rain. For years, he had chased storms of success. Now he finally felt peace. The next morning, the world woke to shocking news. Adrian Khan, the millionaire tech mogul, announced he was donating half his fortune to build free homes and shelters for abandoned parents. When reporters asked why, Adrian smiled and said, "Because I once left my parents in the rain, and I never want another parent to feel that cold again." Weeks passed, and the storm that once brought Adrian face to face with his past had finally cleared. The mansion that used to echo with silence now rang with laughter, warmth, and the smell of his mother's home-cooked meals. His father spent mornings on the balcony, watering plants, humming old songs from Adrian's childhood. For the first time in years, Adrian felt human again, not a businessman, not a millionaire, but a son. One evening, clouds began to gather again. The sky darkened, and raindrops started tapping against the glass. Adrian walked out onto the balcony, letting the cold drops hit his face. His mother joined him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. "You know, son," she said softly, looking at the sky, "we used to pray every time it rained, that wherever you were, you'd find peace." Adrian smiled, eyes glistening. "I did, Amma. I just didn't know peace looked like this." His father stepped beside them, smiling proudly. "Money can build houses, son," he said, "but only love can make them homes." Adrian nodded slowly, his heart full. "And I finally found home again," thunder rumbled. Lightning flashed, and the three of them stood together, hand in hand, watching the rain fall like a blessing. Across the city, people were moving into the first shelters funded by Adrian's new foundation. Elderly couples, once forgotten, now had warm beds and roofs over their heads. The same storm that once symbolized Adrian's guilt had become a symbol of hope for hundreds. As the rain poured harder, Adrian whispered, "It started with one storm, but this time it brought light."